Welcome back. In this video, we're going to be looking at the two types of deductive reasoning. The video prior to this talked about inductive and deductive reasoning. So now we're going to dive into the two types of deductive reasoning, Law of Detachment and Law of Syllogism. In Law of Detachment, we're given three parts. If we know that 1 and 2 are true, then that means that we can conclude our third part. The first part that we're going to be given is that if P, then Q. Our second part is if we know that P is true, then we can conclude that Q is also true. So let's look at an example. If it rains, then practice is canceled. So that is a statement or a conditional statement that they are giving us. That if it rains, then practice is canceled. We also know that P is going to be true. So this is our P to Q. We also are given that it is raining. So that is going to be our P. Therefore, we can conclude that Q is also true. And our Q is that practice is canceled. All right, writing the law of detachment symbolically. Again, we have to be given if P, then Q. We're given that conditional statement. We're also told that P is true, so we're going to be given P. And therefore, we can conclude Q. Our therefore symbol are those three dots there. So this is how you would write it symbolically. That is law of detachment. The second law that we're looking at is the law of syllogism. All right. So this is similar to the law of detachment, but it's different because it involves a third factor. So we're not looking at just P and Q, but now we're going to have a common link between our hypothesis and conclusion. So for example, if it rains, then practice is canceled. That would be our P to Q. If practice is canceled, then I can work. So now we have that Q can lead to something new, which we're going to call R. And in conclusion, since we know if P then Q, and we know that if Q then R, then we can just ignore the Q's and have if P then R. So let's look at that in our example. If it rains, practice is canceled. If practice is canceled, then I can work. So therefore we can conclude if it rains, then I can work. All right, let's look at another example. If it snows today, then I will wear gloves. That's our if P then Q. If I wear gloves, then my hands will get itchy. So that's my if Q then R. So then we can get rid of our Q's and just conclude that if it snows today, then my hands will get itchy. That is our if P then R. So writing this symbolically is just like what I have up here. We have if P then Q, that's what we're going to be given. Also, if Q then R, we'd be given that as well. And therefore, we can conclude if P then R. Let's look at some differences between the law of detachment and the law of syllogism below. Notice that the law of syllogism uses the common link Q to connect P and R. So we have an extra statement in the law of syllogism. All right. And the last thing we're going to look at is Venn diagrams. All right. Venn diagrams use a shape, which are almost always circles, to depict relationships. So if our circles never overlap, that means that they're never going to relate. So if they don't overlap, then they never relate. If just they partially overlap, then they are sometimes going to relate. And if they completely overlap, then, or inside the circle, then it is always going to relate. So let's look at this example. A is blank to B, C, or D. So B, C, and D never overlap A. So A is never B, C, or D. B is blank to C. So B partially overlaps C. So that is going to be that B is sometimes C. C is blank to D. Well, C only partially overlaps D. C is bigger than D, so C is only sometimes D. D is completely inside C, so D is always C. And the last one is that D is what compared to B or A? Well, D doesn't touch B or A. They don't overlap at all. So D is never B or A. So that is it for these topics. Thank you for watching.